Be distracted by the bright lights. So, in today's episode, our second guest of all time, the honor's all mine. How would you introduce yourself? Give me an introduction. Who are you, first of all?
As in what terms?
How do you introduce yourself? How do you define yourself? What defines you?
That's a good question. I'd say, well, first of all, my name is Blair, and in the sense of who am I like to see, when I ask people who they are, in a sense, I like to say, who are you? Take away what you do, just kind of like, who are you? Just like if you're an athlete, you don't want to label yourself as anything. Like, I do this, I do that. You know what I mean? So who am I? I'd say I'm a very paradoxical person. Like, I say that a lot to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But in a sense, I guess that's all humans. But I just feel like me, like you said, I feel like I'm an artist in a type of way. I feel things on a deeper level. So it's not like a normal duality. It's more of like, I take things to more of the extremes on both sides. And that's kind of like a good and bad thing,
Where do you see it as the bad thing? Like, what part of this extreme? 'Cause extremes can be taken to many means, and as you said, you're kind of a paradox. So I wouldn't say there are oxymorons, because as you describe it, you're kind of the perfect embodiment of light and darkness.
For sure.
And with me, this is beautiful, because like I don't even have to lead at all. You can just talk and allow yourself the platform to just go off and have an opinion. Because oftentimes too many people are fearful of being wrong, and in a world where people are very afraid of being wrong, you're not afraid of having an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in a sense I have a lot of unpopular opinions. And
Oh no, it's fine. We're in a college dorm.
Yeah.
It's expected.
I have a lot of unpopular opinions, and in a sense, everybody's wrong, I mean, of course, there's absolute truth through God. I mean, as a Christian, you kind of have to believe in that. And I mean, a lot of what I believe in for myself, in a sense, it doesn't go against God, but like, I know I have a lot of pride, if that makes sense. And I've been trying to work on it for sure. But yeah, everybody's wrong in a sense. So, I mean, you can't really be afraid of being wrong in life, or nothing's going to get done. You know what I mean?
So if you didn't have to believe in God, who would you believe in?
I think there has to be a
in
God.
this world, you're in a Christian school, you've been raised in a military background with a lot of Christian foundations and ideals. Without those ideals guiding you, who guides you? What guides you? You said you're a very prideful person, so do you see yourself as the ultimate defining guider, or the person guiding yourself? If there is no God and ordinance in your life, who is ordaining it?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. You can't necessarily say yourself, because, it's like your first time experiencing everything, and something that guides you has to have like, something that guides you is always more, in a sense, more wise. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they know more than you do. So to say like you guide yourself, I mean, if you say that, then we all guide ourselves. You know what I mean? Because we're all kind of just walking through life
for the first time,
you know. So I mean, I think Andrew Tate said it like, if the God doesn't exist, even the idea of God would create like a more structured life and would guide you like better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because even if he's not there, just the idea of him being there just creates kind of like a set of morals and foundations for life. You know what I mean? So I feel like if God wasn't there to guide me, I would, in a sense, kind of picture like a God type figure above me with all these right morals. You know what I mean? Just to lead me, if that makes sense.
So who's been a God type figure in your life? And I know that's a little bit of a sacrilegious question, because we ultimately have one ordeal God, but
Yeah.
I know you mentioned Andrew Tate and a lot of your influences. You've recently spoken to me about like Marcus Aurelius and people like that.
For sure.
Really started looking up to and whatnot, or who you've developed, who you formulated ideals on based on things that you've already perceived. But the notion here is that you've already perceived them first. How much of your life is lived through your own mind versus the mind of someone else, which you then inherited? Do you say that there is a distinction to be made, or do you say that you're fully 100% you all the time?
That's a good question, because I feel like we're all our own person, but in a sense, we're all just copies of other people. Because everything that we think it comes from somewhere. All the information we get, we have to learn it. Of course, we have the ability to like make our own opinions about what we ingest.
Mm.
But I'd say I'm just a depiction of all the books I've read, of all the philosophical quotes I've read, of just everything I've ever studied. And of course, I can form my own opinions on it. But in a sense, again, everything that me and you have ever thought of has already been thought of. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So again, there is some sense of originality in everything, but also there isn't, you know?
So how can you be different in expressing? Because one thing about you is you tend to like being different. So in expressing your differences, how can you do something different that's been done numerous times? Does that not discourage you at all? Or does that only motivate you?
That's what I've been trying to figure out, you know what I mean? Yeah, I've been trying to figure that out. I haven't really found an answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's just, I don't know. I feel like ever since I was a kid, it's just, I don't know. I've never been, you know how like you can say like, oh, I've always been an athlete. I've been characterized as an athlete. Like in this group, I've always hung around athletes. Like growing up, like, yes, I was an athlete, but I never had like one set group of friends, if that makes sense.
That's
like,
fair.
I don't know. It's not that I get bored around them. It's just weird because like I don't know like how athletes act, and there's nothing wrong with how they act, but just like I don't know. I just feel like I'm an athlete, but like hanging around them all the time, that's not me. But like, so I also hang out with like a lot of, you could call them like nerds in a sense, you know, like people who are really smart, and just I hang out with like a lot of different archetypes, you know. Like in high school, I just kind of hopped from like friend group to friend group, just kind of like a floater. That makes sense. Like I was well known, but I was always in a sense just by myself too, you know. Like I didn't go out any parties, just nothing. I mean, I'd hang out with some friends every once in a while, but honestly, it's usually just kind of in my own world, listening to my music, just working out. You know, and you know, I spoke with you a lot about it. A lot of that stems from just some personal stuff that happened, but yeah.
And it's interesting because you always talking to me about duality or something, or the duality or the essence of your duality in a sense, and how you're always trying to capture it. One thing that's always been admirable about you is that, which I mentioned at the beginning, is that your fearlessness in being wrong. You'll come to me with a philosophy on December 21st, and then come to me with something completely different on the 22nd, having negated the 21st completely, not because you're a walking contradiction, but because you're not scared of having those contradictions to inevitably lead to your answer in allowing yourself to be that duality. But you did also mention you being an athlete. Do you still chase that shadow, or are those days far gone? Because I see you on the basketball court, and it's not like someone's holding a gun to your head and saying, play basketball. You clearly still love the sport. To those who don't know, Ryan Blair is a basketball player. That's not his identity as a whole, but he can play. And by no means will he give himself enough flowers for the ability he has, because he is an array of archetypes who won't allow himself to be consolidated within one. So in basketball and being an athlete, who are you? Have you found yourself through your sport, or are you still kind of chasing it?
It's a good question. Specifically through basketball.
That's the only sport I know that you played. Cause,
yeah, I mean,
like,
I was mainly basketball
about that
player
for a while, because like you had a lot of teammates or influences that you based a lot of your
for sure. I mean, I've played basketball since I was first grade, kindergarten.
Yeah,
so
long damn time.
Yeah, I mean, I took a little break in middle school just for like a year, just because I wanted to try out football. And it wasn't bad.
You played football?
Yeah, I was pretty good. I mean, alright. I wasn't bad. It was like I played one season for like some YMCA league when I was like 5th grade. And then all through middle school. I mean, yeah, I was 18 even though I've never played. So I kind of played every position. I mean, I think 7th grade I was safety on defense and wide receiver on offense. And then 8th grade, for some reason, I was skinny. I was surprised. For some reason, they put me at like a slot receiver, fullback, and running back too. And then I was like 3rd string quarterback, and I actually ended up throwing a touchdown. So it's surprising. Yeah.
I'm not even surprised that you're able to throw a touchdown. I'm shocked that you said it's surprising, considering how much faith and confidence you have.
Well, like I've always had a decent arm, like football. I mean, what I've noticed, like even my mom used to always tell me, like I pick up things pretty quickly. In a sense of anything that has to do with like athleticism. So yeah, I mean, I like soccer too. I played as a kid, but I don't know, basketball has just always been my sport I've like stuck to, just because I was the best at it. I've always been a shooter. Like all throughout middle school, even elementary, like I was just known as a shooter. I started developing like my ball handling skills more in high school, becoming like a guard, because I mean, I'm not short, but I'm not tall, so I mean, I was pretty much, you know what I mean? But What was the original question again with basketball?
It's kind of developing itself as it goes. You're kind of creating your own questions, as I can see, as you go along. Because with your story, you kind of just talk it through. Because even if you had an answer, you then have a sub-answer, and then... Because like initially you said you were prideful, but yet throughout this podcast, or throughout this conversation right now, you haven't really shown any indication of struggle with pride. Because even in talking about football, you've relinquished yourself to even the principles that your mom has taught you. You said your mom always told you that you were good at things instead of you yourself coming outwardly and saying that you were good at things, which is interesting because I don't know if you've just been humbling yourself lately.
Well, it's
not a facade because you do know how to get what you want, but like in a sense, what's been going on with you lately? Because there's been kind of a radical transformation in the way you've been approaching things.
You think so?
Well, there are two major things that I can tell you that are more radical in a sense, and I don't know if this is confirmation for you, but your texting style has changed drastically, not in grammatical coherence or whatnot, because that's all subjective. What we know to be English, as you said, would be arbitrary. But in a sense of getting information about people, instead of a more direct approach, you take more of a deference approach. So you choose humility, and through humility, people typically tend to open up a lot more. So I don't know if you've used that strategically or you've just implemented it naturally into your day-to-day
life.
Well,
I feel like I go through phases. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody goes through phases in life. But for me, I feel like there's just a cycle of like, I don't know, it's very interesting because like, there'll be times where like, I know, like I do have an ego in a sense. I mean, I feel like all men, I can only speak for men because like I'm a man. You know? Yeah. But I feel like all men in a sense need ego. And I'm pretty sure I'm quoting Tate again. You know, I take a lot of inspiration from Tate and just his views on men in general in life.
Any reason why? And is there at any point in your life as to why you felt the need to take influence by him? By no means am I discouraging it, because we all have our own vices we lead to. But what led you to him? What
led me to him was... It's a good question. It was just after that whole girl situation in junior year of high school.
Do you want to talk about it, or like do you want to stray away from it? Because it's not like any of them will be hearing this or seeing it. I don't know any of them.
No, for sure.
Or I can text it to them after if you want me to. Like, let your heart out, let it be known, and I'll show it to them.
Yeah. I don't mind talking about it. It's nothing much. I mean, I was just like, as a kid, I feel like we all have that one girl that we liked a lot in a sense, you know. And you know, we're immature. You know, we don't know what like a real relationship is in love. I mean, we weren't necessarily really together at all either. So it was weird. It's just kind of like I liked this girl a lot. And then, you know, she was kind of, in my eyes at the time, just because I wasn't experienced, I thought, you know, she was kind of everything I wanted. And then, you know, it just didn't end up working out in a sense. Because I don't know how, I mean, at the time, like, I don't want to get into her personal life at all.
Yeah, by no means, yeah.
For sure, but she was going through some stuff, and then that kind of just brought me down a little bit, and then I think that's kind of how everything started. And then also, at the same time after that, I think, two of my friends died in a car accident, and then it was just that on top of everything. Like, I wasn't, like, super close with them, but, like, I've known them since kind of, like, early, like, I think it was, like, 6th grade, and then they died when I was junior. I think it was junior year of high school. So it's just, like, someone I've kind of, in a sense, grown up with through childhood. You know, like, I wasn't always super close. Like, I would hang out with them every once in a while. I mean, literally the day before, I was playing basketball with them, you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. So, in a sense, it was just, that actually was a big eye-opener for me because it kind of just made me upset at this life in general. Because in my mind, it's just like, they're there and then they're gone. And then, like, you look around and then everybody's just kind of going about their day, you know? Like, I just feel like we should put more time into remembering people, but in a sense, you can't really do that because life goes on, you know what I mean?
How have you honored them through their deaths? And that's a weird question because sometimes in people's deaths, we discover more about them than... You good?
What's up, man?
Nothing much, you?
Nah, nothing much. Just chilling.
Good. It's honestly important because they ask how you honor them through their deaths, because do you feel like you live your life to honor what they could have been? It's interesting because, to quote a quote from Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me, he had a friend just like that. His name is Prince Jones. He ended up losing his life to a shooting. Well, he got shot by the police, but ultimately, Ta-Nehisi Coates' perspective was that when a young person dies, the energy that they encompass, the potential that they had, becomes a plunder. It becomes darkness. did you allow the darkness that through their death to help you grow and thrive, or what did you use that darkness for? Because that's a place of darkness.
Yeah, for sure.
What did you do with it?
I would say it did help me grow and thrive a lot. I'm not gonna lie, because this is like it's not a core memory, but it's just something I remember very vividly. I remember just after that happened, like I was already sad about the growth thing, and then after that happened, I think I was watching The King on Netflix. It was some like medieval movie, and I don't know. I was just watching. There was this one like battle scene where like it was a pretty gore movie. Like people were just like bashing each other's heads with maces and stuff, you know. And I don't know. I remember it so like it doesn't hit as deep now because I'm in a more clear mental state. But at the time, I was just very emotional, and in a sense, I was just like, "What is this world?" You know, like I'm literally sitting here watching humans kill each other. You know what I mean?
Do you feel guilty in a sense for being in a clear state of mind and knowing that a lot of your growth came out of some of the darkest times in your life? Do you sometimes find yourself resorting to destructive means to get back to that darkness so that you can exemplify that growth again? Do you not feel that growth the same way?
That's a good way of putting it. I mean, that's actually a really good way of putting it, because what I've noticed about myself, I don't think I do it as much now, but for sure, like over the past year, like I said, everybody goes through phases.
Yeah.
And, you know, I kind of went through phases, like I feel like, okay, like I'm growing, you know, like I'm doing better, you know, like maybe that's it. But then it's just like, I don't know, like I feel like it's just random triggers, like you never know what's going to happen in life. You know, it could be something very small, but then you'll just trigger something, one thing leads to another, and then you're kind of feeling like down a little more.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, what I realized about myself, because like I like to psychoanalyze myself a lot. I used to do it a lot in the past. I didn't even realize I was doing it. I was just trying to like understand myself in a sense. And I guess in the past, I found out that I kind of wanted to be in more of like a darker, like sad state of mind, because in a sense that's when a lot of the growth happened, and that's also when, I don't know, I just felt like I thought a lot clearer and was able to like clearly process all my thoughts just about the world in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you feel that any growth has come from the clear mindset that you have right now? Do you think you're producing better from a place of light than from a place of darkness? Because it's easy to go back to darkness when that's all you know.
For sure. I mean, I would say yes. I mean, there's kind of growth in everything, whether you see it or not. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't really thought about it recently.
Because you're like still going through it. The only thing about these type of podcasts is they're like developmental. They never really finish, because you pride yourself on being an evolutionary being. You will never remain sedentary. And in not remaining sedentary, I wonder if you know how people stigmatize the word boredom to be a bad thing, when in reality boredom is just the mind revitalizing itself and replenishing itself. Do you allow boredom?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think every day I give myself maybe like at least 20 minutes of just complete silence just to think, you know what I mean? Because I saw a quote somewhere on Instagram, it was like, it might have been Nikola Tesla, I think it was him.
You probably sent it to me.
But I probably have.
And my account.
I have, probably. I send you a lot of stuff. But, it was just talking about like, it was something about silence and solitude, how like being in solitude leads to creation and like more imagination and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Just, it's when ideas are born, when you're by yourself. If that makes sense.
What ideas were born of you? This is a rough question, because it's way too aggressive, and it comes off as weird. Because like in a sense,
let's break it down.
Okay, so you go through this time, because this isn't the first girl that you had your heartbreak with results in you going into a space of plunder and darkness. You then have rest in peace to your friends, condolences to you and their families who died in a car accident, who you just played basketball with the day before. So before I transition into that question, did you perceive, because I never really put an end to that question, did you perceive basketball a different way, knowing that that was one of the last things that you were doing with your friends before they died?
It's a good question. I never thought about it like that. Honestly, I would, if I'm being honest, I don't think so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt it was just more of like, I don't think basketball really ties into it. I mean, it was just what we were doing at the time.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I don't think so. Because I feel like I don't know. Like I used to love basketball, but sorry, this is just like another thought.
No, that's kind of what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for your ass to start. The Ryan Blair I know needs to come out. Like
through basketball, it's just like
go crazy. This is your voice.
Through basketball, like what I realized, I was never like the most confident person in basketball. You know what I mean? I feel like basketball did help me gain confidence, but as a kid, I've never been the most confident. You know what I mean? Like I guess there's still some remnants of it in my personality now, like how I'm more quiet. You know, I don't know if that really stems from not being confident, but because I feel pretty confident now, but just as a kid, I was never the most confident person. I was very quiet, you know, like I wouldn't talk to someone unless they come up to me. And through basketball, I always had a lot of potential. Like all my coaches would tell me, like even when I was playing, I think, was it 7th, 8th grade ball, like one of the dads on the team told me I should be playing with the varsity squad in high school. Like, I remember that pretty clearly. It was a tournament down in Corpus Christi. And, yeah, I don't know, like, I've always known, like, I was, like, above average and good. But I never kind of got past that, like, kind of out of my shell in a sense with basketball, like, to reach my full potential. Like, I still feel I haven't reached it. I wasn't able to, you know?
Does that bother you, or do you think that you become so obsessed with this one basketball thing you would fail to seek your other archetypes?
I'd agree with that statement right there.
Okay.
Because kind of how I view sports now is like when I went through that big change, you know what I mean? Like after everything happened, like I'm telling you, after like the girl and like my friends, literally just kind of like my whole mindset changed about everything. Because it was like, in a sense, I went through an existential crisis, you know?
Yeah.
Just, it kind of opened up my mind just to the bigger picture. And
you didn't see basketball in that bigger picture?
Not in a sense, because I mean, it's just a sport, you know? I feel like there's more things to do in my life. I mean, of course, basketball for a lot of people can take them far places in life, you know? It can make their career and all that. But for me, I just saw it as like, I don't know, to me it's just a sport. Like there's more important things. And what I thought about it was just like my ancestors, it might be a bad way of thinking about it, but my ancestors, they all died, you know, just for me to be here. Like they went through a lot. I know I don't know them, but still, like for me to even be here, like I'm lucky, you know? This quote by like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he said, like, what was it? For you to even be born, that's a miracle. There's like so many people that could be born that aren't born. So for me and you to even be talking right now, that's a miracle.
We are the dreams of our ancestors that they couldn't bring forth into the reality.
For sure. Yeah. And I just feel like sports, like of course, sports can make careers. It can save people's lives. You know what I mean? But for me, I just feel like I was meant for more than just sports. Like my ancestors didn't die all that just for me to play a sport. You know what I mean? And what I kind of realized technically I could through sports get rich and stuff. And it's not like I'm chasing money, but like the freedom that comes with it. But yeah, I just kind of viewed sports as like, you know, like the Roman gladiators back in the day. I just kind of have this mindset now, like I feel like the government put the Roman gladiator, like the whole thing into place, like the sport as of a distraction from the actual politics of the world and the like real events that are going on. I mean, why do you think they pay athletes so much money now? You know what I mean? Because they distract millions of people. You know, like everybody's worried about like, did the Cowboys win on Sunday? You know what I mean? And they're not like focused on the bigger picture of what's actually happening in the real world.
Focusing so much on the trees, you forget about the forest.
For sure. Okay. And it's just like, I felt like I didn't want to, I feel like, it's kind of harsh, but I didn't want to be a puppet. I feel like athletes are puppets in a sense.
Okay.
In a bigger sense of things. I mean, I guess we are all puppets, but athletes are just strategically placed there as a distraction to the like, general public. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to be one of those people.
You couldn't see yourself playing that game any longer?
No, I mean, like, of course, I always said I'd still play it for fun, but actually, right after I quit, like, I wanted nothing to do with basketball. Like a couple months after I quit, just because. I honestly don't even know why. Like I still liked it, but like it was weird because I went through a phase where I wouldn't even watch like the NBA on TV.
Shoot, I still can't watch the NBA.
Just because, like, I don't know.
But I get that.
It's just like I didn't want to. I feel like things that remind me of my past, I kind of stray away from. You know what I mean? Because with basketball, I mean, I wouldn't say I had the best coaches, but I feel like some of my coaches took away a lot of my confidence too. Does that make sense? You know, because I've always been a shooter. I mean, like, I didn't have the best ball handling skills, but I feel like basketball is all a confidence thing. I feel like everybody has skills to a certain extent that can lead them to be successful in the sport. So I feel like literally all shooting is confidence. Like, of course, mechanics play a big role, but like, I mean, even if you have bad mechanics, I mean, look at some of the people in the league. You know what I mean? Some people have some weird shots, and it's like they go in though. It's just all confidence. You know, you just gotta believe you're gonna make it. And you know, I struggled with that a little bit in basketball, and it's kind of crazy because after retiring from the sport, it's more of like I finally realize it now. And honestly, shooting around, I feel like my shot's gotten better than when I actually played. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting. I mean, I guess as you grow, you mature and just you get more knowledge on everything that could play a big role too. I mean, if I still played now, I honestly don't know where I'd be in life. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess like I really didn't get any like direct offers from schools, but I mean, I had maybe some D2, D3 interest, you know what I mean? And that's about it. I mean, I remember actually I had like a really good tournament once, and I remember my coach actually told me some school was supposed to call me, but they never did. So it was a little weird.
And well, your build is bleeding over the airways, although they can't see you. You don't consider yourself to be a bodybuilder by any sense, and I don't want to mislabel you because so the build that you have right now, apart from basketball itself, you've kind of always had an athletic build, and you know that. But the question is...
Well, actually, I mean, athletic build to a certain extent. Okay. I've always been very skinny.
How skinny?
Like, I'd say it's pretty skinny. I didn't start putting on size till quarantine.
What caused the massive shift in mentality to start building muscle? Was it more of
really
an emotional
wasn't.
thing, kind of like building a shield through a big physique, or?
Honestly, originally started.
What's up? How are you? You about to go to sleep? Yep. Have a good night, Dion. Have a good night.
So originally, how I started working out, quarantine. My parents have always been big into fitness because they're military, of course, and I'm actually very happy that my parents take pride in fitness, you know what I mean? Like, that's something that's important. They've always, like, pushed us towards fitness, you know, you need to be fit and strong. Because, you know, with fitness comes a lot of other things to learn, like traits as in discipline, you know, it teaches you, like, resilience. But my parents do CrossFit, so I actually started off with CrossFit during quarantine. Honestly, I had nothing to do, so, you know, my parents were like, hey, come down and work out with us, so I just worked out every day with them in the garage, and I enjoyed it. You know, like, when you see progress in anything, you start to enjoy it a little more, so I started seeing progress in my body. So I was like, hey, why not? Like, let's keep doing this. So I started off with that, and then, of course, once school started up again, I was still playing basketball. So I kind of stopped lifting consistently for basketball because, you know, like, you lift too much and you miss a shot. So, and yeah, that's another story. I mean, literally I think junior year of high school, I don't know why. I lifted, like, I think it was because junior year of high school, we made it to playoffs that year, my school, but what's it called? That was when, like, everything happened, that kind of, like, just tragic, everything. But, yeah, I think I just got to the point where I didn't care too much about anything anymore. So, I mean, like, when I was, like, in practice and everything, like, my mind was always just somewhere else, you know, like, I was still playing all right, but I wasn't like fully present in the moment, you know what I mean? So during that season, I would always lift. Like, we'd have, like, our team lifts every once in a while, but, like, even before practice, after practice, like, even before games, like, I'd get a gym session in, you know what I mean? And I feel like that season I wasn't the most consistent with my shot. I mean, in the beginning, I actually was. I think I had like 30-something threes in, like, preseason.
That's crazy.
But, But it's just, I lifted a lot, like, after games, before games, and it kind of messed, like, my shot up a lot.
The overall dynamic of this whole, like, the label of podcast isn't screwing up your thoughts, is it?
No.
I hope it isn't, because
Sorry, I just like I think, and then just kind of one like idea takes me just maybe. Like,
that's exactly what I'm
idea.
looking for. Because honestly, a lot of these questions are centered around trying to get you to recollect, because you'd be depriving whoever listens to this of your life, which has been a cluster of everything. From the military background to the fact that you're the eldest, correct?
Yeah, oldest cousin too.
Oldest cousin and oldest brother. So how much of you being the oldest cousin and older brother do you think factors into how you live your everyday life? Not just everyday life, but how you carry yourself, knowing that you're an example for somebody else. Not just through your physique.
It's it's for sure a unique dynamic, I guess, because like I said, I mean, I'm not just because I'm military. We had to move around a lot, and a lot of my cousins are military kids too, so it's like they had to move around a lot. I mean, I was born in Ohio, and I've been into a couple of different states. So in a sense, our family is kind of all over the place, and we were never really close because we didn't get to spend much time together. You know what I mean? Of course, we see each other like a couple times per year for the holidays. That's about it. I mean, my mom's pretty close with her sisters, my dad with his brothers. But me, like, I don't really talk to much anybody, like my cousins. Like, I don't think I've seen my cousins in a while, you know, like I think I used to snap one of them, but yeah, I mean, he used to live in Japan because that's where they were stationed, you know, they're military, so it's just been kind of hectic. So my family's not like super tight, but of course we're still there for each other and care for each other. Are
you afraid of not being a lone wolf? In a sense, a lot of your life has kind of been you overcoming adversity and facing it yourself. Do you fear overcoming it with another person? Do you fear that'll take away from your individuality as a person, not something that you've identified with for so long, no longer being a component?
I would like to say no, but I think the real like answer is yes, like subconsciously.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Unconscious or subconscious?
Subconscious.
Okay.
Like, I would like to say no, but when I think about it and just knowing myself, that's probably what it is. You know what I mean? Because I feel like growing up as a kid, like, you know, I was more like on the shy side.
Yeah.
I would never like be the leader in any group. I would always kind of let someone else take charge. And my accomplishments were other people's accomplishments too, because I was in a sense a follower, you know, like I'd just be like part of the group. So I feel like me wanting to be independent now and more of like the lone wolf type archetype stems from as a kid kind of not ever feeling a sense of accomplishment by myself. Like I did that by myself, you know what I mean? So I feel like now I want to do a lot of things by myself because I want to prove to myself that, you know, I'm capable of all these things. Does that make sense?
I wonder if that's a huge reason as to why you stopped playing basketball as well, subconsciously speaking as well.
Maybe.
That's a team sport. Yeah.
Subconsciously, that's actually interesting because recently I've been thinking about doing MMA, like, and that's a one-on-one thing.
I wanted to talk about that so badly. I'm glad you brought it up.
It's very intriguing. You know, I love physical. I've never been in physical combat, but I'd like to say
except for that time where you, y'all can't see where I'm pointing, but that time where you sunned up Duel right here. Right there, you like double-legged his ass and took his ass down right here. That's probably my favorite maybe moment. Of first semester.
Dude, I forgot about that.
I can't forget about that. That video is hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know where it is. It's probably somewhere in my camera.
I'm about to send it to you right after this.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that video was hilarious. But no, with that being said, what about MMA intrigues you?
It's just like
you talked about gladiators and pacification.
Of course, it's one-on-one. You know what I mean? Everything is on you, you know what I mean? And you just kind of have to give your all in the cage. Like, of course, I could do boxing. Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like drawn to the more like well-rounded combat sport, which is MMA, like mixed martial arts. It's kind of everything combined. Just like, I feel like it embodies who I am as a person. I'm kind of like, I like to think of myself as everything combined also. Right. You know what I mean? So I feel like MMA is just more of like, I embody it more. You know, it relates to me more.
So you don't fear becoming one of those puppets that you said they used during gladiator times to pacify the masses?
That's interesting. That's interesting
because you get into these things and then you realize you have this existential urge to do something else. Then you get bored and then you move on and then you feel like a puppet. Then you go back.
For sure, but that's actually interesting because everybody in my whole life like has always told me, because you'll probably know this about me, I'm very impatient. You know what I mean?
Probably.
Yeah, that's something I do. I've realized recently that's something I need to work on, like big time. But I've kind of realized everybody's told me that, and I don't really take it into consideration in my mind. Like, it makes sense and I understand it, but like, does it really make sense to me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like you always got to start somewhere. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't forget who I was talking to, but it was about the whole combat sports thing too, and I was like, yeah, I mean, like, oh, it was with Mikey because he was gonna help me, like, maybe start a TikTok, try to become a social media influencer. But then I said, like, I don't want to be known as like a social media influencer because in my mind, in a sense, like, nobody takes him as serious. You know what I mean? Like in business relations, like, oh, he's a TikToker. Oh, he's famous on socials. You know, I feel like if I wanted to get big on social media, it'd have to be like a David Goggins type thing where like he's known for something outside of this social media world, in a sense, like something more real and something like more respected. You know, I mean, I can't really compare myself to Goggins because his life is way different than mine. But, he's known for being the toughest man on the planet, basically. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would want to be known for, in a sense. And then I guess use social media as a tool to help promote my kind of mindset and help people. But I don't want to be known as just like, oh, he's a TikToker. Oh, he grew on that. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have a good foundation, in a sense. But yeah, back to the original point, you got to start somewhere. I mean, I feel like if I ever did MMA and try to make it to the UFC or something like that, it would be like I said, building a foundation and just starting somewhere, because someone brought this up, like Jake Paul started out on Disney Channel and like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, and then now he's actually a decently respected boxer, you know what I mean? Like people actually take him somewhat seriously now.
To some extent, yeah.
Yeah, and like he's made a big career out of it. I mean, like, I guess I feel like this kind of goes with anything. If I want to I know I do want to do something big in life, but I'm gonna have to start somewhere, in a sense, like whether it's social media, whether it's through a sport. Like, I'm gonna have to use that, and then you build connections everywhere you go. So like, get some more connections, kind of venture off into this, and then that'll lead to something else, and then you know what I mean. Just kind of try to climb the ladder.
So would you rather be, because if you're looking for something more real and of sustenance, would you rather be in the forefront or the background? Work from the background to get to the forefront, or start in the forefront? And like, how do you?
Ooh, that's a good question.
How do you see yourself operating in this? Because like,
that's a good question.
Yeah.
I feel like, that is a good question. I feel like,
because like you're still figuring it out, and it's fine to not have an answer right now and to let that simmer. And
for sure. I mean, I'll try to answer it the best I can.
So,
I mean,
okay.
I feel like I do want the spotlight, I guess, but in a sense, maybe not in the beginning, because if I think about it rationally, like maybe the beginning, I don't need the spotlight because that's kind of my growth period,
Yeah.
Get spotlight too quickly, kind of messes with your mind, like you got all this attention on you, you start to act different, do things differently. I mean, I feel like I trust myself. I know like that's kind of a good and bad thing, because a lot of people have told me like I need to trust God more than I trust myself, and I try, like I really try, and I feel like I do, but it all comes down to the pride thing. I feel like I'm kind of still full of pride, just kind of in a sense, and that kind of leads to another thing. Like I feel like life comes down, like what dictates your life comes down to self-perception, and what you said, you actually introduced kind of this whole idea of heart posture to me, you know what I mean? Kind of how you see yourself shapes your entire world, like how you experience things, like what you attract and everything, you know what I mean? And I know that for a fact because I've experienced it, you know what I mean? Like I've seen myself as many different things, and every time I've seen myself as something different, something different happens in my life, It's all kind of like an energy thing of what you attract.
So from a hypothetical stance, how much does love factor into this? And I don't just mean from another person. You mentioned heart posture, definitely, but like the love of those around you, the love, because you've clearly said that.
For sure.
The lone wolf narrative has been established early.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you find that love and you're still not satisfied? What happens when you have everything, but it's still not enough? Then what do you do?
See,
does that scare you at all, having everything and still seeing it as nothing?
I feel like having everything would make me more content, and that would possibly make me content in the bigger picture with innocence suppressing me wanting more.
Do you know what your everything is?
But
Because in a sense, let's just say, all right, let's put this into facets, because everything is a very broad word. Because you clearly want to be able to do everything, but everything is hard to contextualize. So from a love perspective, get the girl that you always wanted in the way you always wanted, how you wanted her. Would that be enough for you?
in a sense of just love.
Love itself. Would that be enough for your heart? Is your heart even able to recognize the love that someone else has towards you now at this point?
That's a good question. I feel like I don't think I've ever experienced like unconditional love from a female in a sense.
Other than your mom, maybe?
Other than
that's
for sure, no.
story. Yeah, no, I get
my mom aside, family aside, I'm just
Okay.
speaking of people non-related to me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, my mom's always been there. So is my dad. My dad and my mom both play like a big factor in my life.
Yeah.
And I take a lot of inspiration from them actually. But in a sense of, see, love is like one of the last girl I used to talk to. I don't mention her name,
That's
but
fine.
yeah,
You don't have to.
but she always told me like love is a very like strong word. You know what I mean? And that is true to an extent, but I feel like love's not a feeling, love's more of an action, and love is something you build with people. It's not just randomly there, you know? I mean, I guess you can feel like a deep connection with someone instantly, but love is something that you build with someone. It's not just there. I mean, you can't just say like, hey, this is love, you know what I mean? It could just be attachment, you know? So love is something you build with someone over time, you know what I mean? And it could take a while, but yeah.
How'd you get over it, if you ever did? Not the last one, I mean, I don't even know if you ever got over your first one, because it's like soul fragments. We leave a part of our soul with every person we meet.
Of course.
And how much of your soul, do you think you've left an excusable amount of yourself to the point where you can look at yourself and say that I know why I love this person, that person needed that love at the time, or are you still struggling with that because you within yourself haven't found it?
Of course, I feel like, truthfully, see, this is what I mean, like, I feel like my real kind of inner person is a more rational and like clear-minded person that understands life better in a sense.
Okay.
Makes better decisions in a sense. So yes, I do feel like at the time, and it's like I believe everything happens for a reason, and God places people in my life for a reason. I mean, I don't regret anything that's ever happened to me because, you know, I wouldn't be who I am right now. So in a sense, I do understand like why things happen the way they did, you know what I mean? And that kind of leads to another thing. It's like God will keep repeating the same cycle in your life until you learn the lesson. And that's what I realized. Like, you got to notice the patterns in life. And when I started noticing the patterns in life, like kind of opened up my mind just to, like, you know what I mean? Just everything. Because also when it comes to girls, I guess, with, or like a significant other or like a romantic partner, like if someone's not meant for you, then it's, you know, it'll never work out.
Because you're not a man who struggles with that in any means. I don't mean significant other by means. I mean, like, you're acutely aware of who you want, how you want it, and the way to get it. So it's weird.
In a sense, yes, but like God will keep sending you different people, or sorry, the same people, just with a different face until you really learn your lesson. You know what I mean?
So cycles. Do you see those cycles triggering you constantly today? That's actually, no, you've already answered that question in abundance. What triggers in that cycle do you see resulting in you falling back into your wayside ways? And do you sometimes seek that out?
Yeah, I just feel like,
subconsciously to go back to those moments? Because, like,
for sure, because I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, like, I feel like, in a sense, girl problems have been a big part of, like, it sounds dumb, but like, it really shouldn't have been this significant, but I feel like it kind of shaped a lot of who I am today. And I feel like actually that's more of a good thing in a sense, or it's kind of depends on how you look at it. But I feel like I'm more experienced now with like kind of like the female mind, I guess, because I'd like to think I understand kind of how females operate now,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of how to maneuver around it. Like, not in any type of manipulative way, just kind of like to safeguard myself and be smart and make better decisions when it comes to females. You know what I mean?
And have you put up so many, and this goes, the reason why love is such a heavy and overtone in this is because of how much it has impacted your life. Would you say that in safeguarding yourself, you haven't allowed yourself to really fully love someone? Or did you already say that you're, because you're not unable to do it? Because you said you haven't felt unconditional love, but have you ever given unconditional love?
For sure.
Okay. Even with the safeguards and everything, you've been able to do that?
I feel like
that's pretty impressive.
I feel like for me, I feel like I love hard, like in a relationship, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't even know what to call it. Like the last one I was in, it was more of like a no label relationship. Like we were together, but not like officially.
Question it. Yeah.
Because it was just kind of like, it was more of like, because I'm over here. It was like beginning of the school year. It was kind of like a long distance. So it was a little, they're hard, but I honestly don't know what to call it. But yeah, I feel like with her, it was unconditional love, you know what I mean? Because I genuinely felt it, you know what I mean? Like, I genuinely felt like I had unconditional love for her, you know?
Did you feel like you were able to love her because she was so much like you?
In a sense, maybe, but I just feel like I give out a lot of love because, like, it's more of like, it's a psychological thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I can say the same thing about you, you know what I mean? Like, we both, like, enjoy helping people because we wish we had someone like that for ourselves. You know, we both wish we've had, like, someone like ourselves to help us, you know what I mean? Like, I can say the same thing about you. Like, I don't mean to put it back on you.
No, that's fine. That's what a conversation is.
Yeah, you're, like, more like, when it comes to friendships, you're like a therapist archetype, I guess. That makes sense. Like, you enjoy helping people.
It makes sense.
I respect that a lot. Like, that's a really good thing. Like, I enjoy helping people too, but, everything happens for a reason, and we all do things for a reason. Everything we do stems from something.
Right.
You like helping people because of the experiences that happened in your past. You know what I mean? Like, I don't exactly know what happened, but yeah, you enjoy helping people through their hardships because I guess you know how it feels to be in those hardships, and you wouldn't want them to have to deal with the same thing you did. Does that make sense?
I'm just hoping it's not as challenging with your last relationship because you quite literally found an archetype such as yourself. I don't know.
Well, I just feel like subconsciously it's also... I just, honestly, with her, I felt like it was innocence. She might not agree, but it was maybe like... I felt like it was more of like I was chasing innocence a little bit. You know what I mean? And guys love a challenge, so it's a subconscious thing. Like, innocence,
you like a challenge?
I love challenges, but when it comes to girls, I don't know. I feel like I'm at the point in my life where I'm not too kind of focused on females, because I feel like 18 to 22, like, age-wise, as a guy, is when you kind of build the foundation up as a man.
Mm-hmm.
You either kind of make or break yourself for the rest of your life, So I feel like I do need to lock in. And, I'm not, like, completely blocking out all females. If a girl comes into my life and she supports me, and, like, she doesn't hold me back, then, of course, like, I'll openly accept her to see what happens. But I'm not, like, too worried about it. Like, I'm not out there being like, oh, I need a girl, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
You don't really need anyone in your mind, hence why you're going to be going bald. Like, this podcast is like a culmination, not even a culmination, but just an amalgam of so many conversations.
I'd like to think I'm actually going to pull through with saying that I'm going to buzz my hair for winter break. We'll see.
Do you think you're going to actually pull through with it and commit to it?
That is a good question. We'll have to find out.
We'll have to find out. Not like you have commitment issues or anything, but like throughout your life, a pattern has been clearly things being very short-lived.
For me, like I was telling you before, actually, we had this conversation earlier. Like, for change to happen in my life, something drastic has to change.
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Exactly. So...
But like you set these high goals with this high bar, and then you cut yourself at your knees, and then don't achieve that goal, and then set it low. I don't know why you do that to yourself. It's like a safeguard.
Yeah, in a sense, you're right, but I like to set my goals super high because, like, Yeah, a lot of what I say comes from things I've read about, so like
Yeah.
don't quote me on any of this, but
That's fine.
like goals wise, I always like to set them like as high as possible, even if I feel like it's unattainable. Even if I fail, I'm failing above everybody else. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And in a sense, I guess I shouldn't be worrying about anybody else, but bettering myself. But I feel like comparison with other people is impossible. Like impossible not to do, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you don't realize it, subconsciously you're always comparing yourself to someone else.
So do you surround yourself with people who you subconsciously feel are better than you? Typical psychology
for
101.
sure. I'd like to think I try to. You know what I mean?
Or worse than you to feel a superiority complex.
So
but you
see,
don't.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I feel like I used to do that in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like in high school I used to. I don't know because honestly don't know because even in high school, like, I mean, I couldn't really find anybody with the same mindset as me. You know what I mean? Like I'd see like traces of it in some people, but
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't be to the level that I was at. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
As I say, like I enjoy talking to you because like on an intellectual level, just I feel like you're like we're on par. If that makes sense. Who knows? I don't like comparing, but like who knows? You might be smarter than me. You know what I mean? I may be smarter than you. Who knows?
Facets. Once again, we can break it down into facets.
Yeah, but it's just like even this podcast, like I enjoy doing a lot because you know these type of conversations make me think, and through thinking comes growth. You know what I mean?
And then you're gonna
I
come
can
to
only
me
learn stuff.
tomorrow with like something completely out of left field, or after this, I'm gonna wake up to some text probably late after class because I'm definitely not. My mom hears this. I miss my 9 a.m. class. I love you though. And with that being said, like, okay, so going back to the gladiator and establishing that mentality, you clearly stated that you're already from a military background. It's kind of clear that you've inherited a sense of glory, or in the Greek they called it kleos, which is like Achilles-based glory.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like this story, and it was interesting because he was given his fate two ways, because he was the child of a nymph and a mortal. He was given his fate. He either hide and then live a long life but an unfulfilling one, or you go to war, attain glory, and become, well, eternal through story. And his story lives on, which sees that although he lived a short life physically, his name lives on. So what's your mindset? Because Achilles,
Okay,
you compare yourself to Achilles frequently.
Yeah,
so.
this is interesting because I'm not gonna lie. If it ever came down to, I mean, I feel like joining the military for me would be kind of last resort.
You have these flashes where you'll text me.
Of course,
Just like,
I mean,
I'm joining the military. I'm like, Ryan.
I mean, I'm not scared of death at all. I'd like to think I'm not scared of it at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, God has a plan for me. You know what I mean? But I would join the military, but I just feel like I said, I'm not scared of death, but I just feel like I have too much to live for, if that makes sense. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for me, I want to be that person in my generational family, I guess, to set my family up for generations, like generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want my kind of portrait to be hanging above the dinner table 2 generations down the road, and like, you know, like the kids, and like they just look up to me and like take inspiration from me, and like the parents, they'll be like, that's like your great uncle that set us up, like he's the reason why we're here right now in this luxurious house. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, thinking about it, I feel like that would be the most fulfilling thing for me, in a sense, that just knowing that it was me who kind of set my family up.
You're affirming that?
For sure, and I feel like it will happen, you know? I don't have any doubt in my mind that it won't.
Do you fear that you'll have to die for that? Because you can die many times while being alive.
Of course.
But do you fear that you'll have to die physically for that to be achieved in your ultimate pursuit of glory and fame?
Not necessarily.
Would you die for it?
I think so. I mean, like I said, I'm not scared of death.
So you're okay with living your glory through death and not being able to see your own glory come to fruition through your own
That is a
existence?
good question. I've actually never thought about it. Like that, I have never thought about it.
Interesting.
So I'll get back to you after I've had some more time to think
This
about
is
it.
not over. There are going to be
this isn't over,
numerous
man.
episodes
That question.
with you on it,
For
because you're an ever-present character, and if I'm blessed enough to continue having you in my life and to see your life come to fruition the way that you say it will, then it'll be perfect.
The thing, like, I feel like just ever since I was a kid, like, I've never had any doubt in my, even though I was very, like, not the most
Shy and
confident.
timid, yeah.
It's a weird feeling. I promise you, like, ever since I was a kid, I've always had some type of feeling that I was, in a sense, going to be something in life, like, kind of be what I wanted.
Mm.
Like, so even now, it's just, I've never kind of had any doubt in my mind that I wasn't going to kind of be who I was meant to be, if that makes sense.
It's like you've created a silhouette of smoke and you've created a platform and a foundation of smoke, but as you brick by brick lay it on top of the other, the smoke becomes glue, and as these bricks come to fruition and come to life, you lay that foundation for what you want.
I just feel like I've kind of just, I have a lot of belief in myself, and who knows, like I said, I'd like to think that it's like true confidence and belief. But like I just like to psychoanalyze myself, but who knows, I feel like, I'm gonna be completely honest, like, I'm not scared of opening up, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, a lot of my actions, in a sense, they do come from insecurities, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the exact insecurities, of course, because they're all subconscious, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily realize them, but in a sense, I feel like everybody's actions come from subconscious insecurities and out of fear. Does that make sense? I could argue, again, there's always anomalies of like certain very specific situations and circumstances, but I feel like I can make an argument that all human action stems from some type of fear. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's levels to it. It doesn't have to be some big fear of yours, you know what I mean? But everybody has some fears that are subconscious that kind of direct our life, you know? Whether it's like, we don't want this to happen, we don't want that, or fear can mean many different things.
What do you think I think you fear? Because you asked me, what do I think you fear, but you never...
What do you think I fear?
I answered that. I think ultimately what I thought you feared was, looking back, like, I think David Goggins had this quote. It was like, God shows you your life, and he shows you all these things, and you're like, that isn't me, and God says, that's what you should have been.
Exactly.
That's ultimately what I believed you feared, but then as I go along through this continuously, I think you fear yourself more than anything. I don't think you fear. There's a poem that I quote to people oftentimes, which is like, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, it's that we are powerful beyond measure. It is not our darkness, but our light that fears us the most, that we fear the most. In a really weird sense, which goes back to duality, I feel that you fear your darkness more than you fear your light, because you in a state of darkness are unstable. And I know that can be said for a lot of people, and then I wonder if you're more unstable in light than you are in darkness, because you're not comfortable in light, because you rarely have light. So in times like these, what do you do when you're in a state where you haven't had much of it?
I'd like to say, like, I'm kind of comfortable in my own darkness. Like, I wouldn't say I'm afraid of it, if that makes sense.
Do you fear light more than you fear darkness? And I don't mean your own light, I mean like light in general, because you just don't see it often.
So I feel like you could say yes. You could.
It's kind of sad, but
I mean,
it's fair in life. It's
just, I feel like kind of my mindset has just been, like I said, this mindset of mine has been, there's over time, just layers and layers of layers over many years, you know, to the point where it's just like, it's kind of, I don't know if I can break out of it, but it's just, for the longest time, like, I just feel guilty being, like, happy, if that makes sense. Because, like, with all these ambitious goals of mine of where I want to be in life and what I want to be, just, like, in my mind, to an extent, like, do I really deserve to be happy now? And kind of, I feel like too lackadaisical when I'm happy, if that makes sense.
Mm.
I feel like I'm not doing enough to get to where I want to be, like, you know what I mean? I feel like if I really wanted it like I say I do, then I shouldn't be, like, doing anything to deter me from reaching those goals. And I feel like happy is a form of pleasure and gratification, and I feel like that deters me from kind of where I want to be.
Do you stop yourself from things that make you happy because you feel guilty for feeling it?
See, I honestly don't know because I am an introverted person, and like I said, I never went to any parties in high school ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'd like to think that's just not who I am. Like I don't find that fun at all. But to take it a level deeper, to a certain extent, is also, am I not going because I don't want to be happy and have fun? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe subconsciously, that could be a reason. But what I like to think is just that that's kind of not.
All right. So I do remember saying that I didn't get a second segment, but now that we're kind of back to some extent, there's one thing. If you could clear up one thing about the perception of you based on how you think of yourself or how other people think of yourself, what do you think it would be? What would you clear up?
What would I clear up?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. What would I clear up? I don't think there's much to clear up in a sense because I feel like everybody I meet has a different perception of me because I kind of I feel like I read people pretty well, so I kind of see their personality, how they interact with people, and then I adjust my personality and how I interact with them according to how they act.
So is there nothing genuine about who Ryan Blair is? If you adjust your
Everything is
personality
genuine.
to each person,
Everything
who
is
are
genuine,
you?
but you still have to. I feel like everybody, to a certain extent, naturally kind of acts a certain way towards different personality types, different types of people. But the only thing is for me is I realize it and I actually can understand it, if that makes sense. A lot of people don't know they actually do it, but I know I do it.
So if you acknowledge that there's a smoke screen behind your personality, and we spoke about this in the second segment, which unfortunately will be the infamous second verse of that one Logan Paul diss track all those years ago that he refused to release. But the kindergarten revelation, the first formative memory of yours that you've seen influencing your life nowadays, and what it's been an undertone to. Because I don't remember which segment, but you discussed music being kind of music and symbols repeating itself through music and how they repeated yourself in life. So after you've answered the formative memory question, could you try and correlate it to the symbols that you have in music and how it impacts your life as well today?
What do you mean?
I'll separate the questions. First one,
Sorry, it's just
No,
late,
you're
so I'm
good.
trying to understand.
Okay, so it's 3 in the morning, I get it.
Yeah.
So first formative memory that you've seen that shaped your life today,
Yeah.
what was the story?
Oh, just me replay the whole thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you want.
Yeah, so I remember it was kindergarten, we had recess time, and in kindergarten I was always seen as by all the teachers, I was some type of angel kid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I was bad, I've always been a very kind-hearted, good person at heart. I'm not saying I'm not. There's not an illusion that I'm not. I wouldn't say so, but I would say that, yeah, in kindergarten, all the teachers viewed me as an amazing kid. I was always respectful, just an outstanding student, if that makes sense. And so it was recess one day, and long story short, I pushed a kid down the slide. I thought it was funny, I was kindergarten, I was a little kid, they ended recess early, we all came back inside, and the teacher sat us down, and they're like, who did it? And nobody would confess to it. And so, knowing me, the angel, the teachers asked me, Ryan, who did it? But it's kind of ironic that it was me who actually did it. I pointed at some random kid that was known for getting in trouble, and I basically got him in trouble, and I kept the straightest face ever. Nobody would have ever known, and nobody does, till this day, except now that I just said it. But it was kindergarten, you know what I mean? But yeah.
Do you see yourself in the kid that you snitched on, in a sense, nowadays when you look back at it?
Do I see myself in the kid?
In a way. So, okay, let's just see this. He was a byproduct of people's assumptions of him. He was no more than what people had thought, despite the fact that he hadn't done it. He had a track record that would basically, 9 times out of 10, would make people assume that if it were to be anybody, it would be him. Do you see yourself in a sense today in that kid's shoes, where people point fingers at you for being you get it, or at least I hope you understand where this is
no,
going.
I get
Okay.
you. See, that's the thing. That I wouldn't say there's like a general perceived judgment of me though. Like, I feel like.
I mean of yourself. I don't mean from the outside. I mean within.
Myself.
Because the greatest battle you overcome and
Okay.
that you fail to every day is within your own mind.
So, do I think people see me a certain way? Is that what you're asking me?
Well, you already said that you're perceived differently based on other people's minds, but I was going to ask you, based on that, okay, from what you've seen, do you think you have failed to be perceived the way you've put forth perception-wise, like who
No.
you want? Okay, so you think you succeeded in being perceived the way you want to be.
For sure.
Do you think you've lost yourself in the process of doing so?
In a sense.
So...
Well, not really, but like, lost myself. What do you mean by lost? Like, define lost.
Okay. Do you have any core values that you've had that you've seen
I feel like
change along the way?
I feel like how I'm depicted anything is actually helping me in a sense. Like, even I feel like my perception from an outside point of view, how other people perceive me, I feel like I honestly feel like it's what I want it to be at, because I feel like I'm pretty good at kind of curating this idea of me curating this perception of me that I want other people to see. I'm pretty good at curating that, if that makes sense. And like, when I kind of everything kind of just happens how I expect it to happen, if that makes sense. I feel like there's not really much instances where it's just, I mean, of course there are some unexpected things that just comes with life, I guess, but in general there's not too many surprises, I guess. Because I overthink a lot, and I feel like a lot of overthinkers can relate to this. I feel like I think of every single scenario, like the possibility of each happening. So if this happens, I'm not surprised, even if it's like not like a big chance it'll happen. Like if it happens, like I already thought about it, so like it's not a huge surprise to me.
So is that done as kind of like a defense to stop yourself from feeling the pain in the moment, or how do you see it? How do you perceive that? How do you perceive what you've done?
I don't know if it's a defense. I feel like I like to know things. Like I like understanding things.
So
I want to understand everything.
So is there a distinction between understanding and fear of uncertainty?
Like I said, I don't know, was this in the second part, but I mentioned it before. Like I said, this stems back to all actions are derived out of some type of fear.
And what are your
So
actions
in a sense,
derived out of?
I could argue fear. Who knows? It's all subconscious, you know. I could try to understand myself, but I'm not gonna lie. I don't think nobody will fully ever understand themselves.
You did discuss people and insecurities and some being better at hiding it than others.
Yeah, their insecurities are all on the same level. If one perceives to be more insecure than another person, it's just the other person is better at hiding it. You know, like all insecurities are on the same level. We're all equally insecure. You know, some people just kind of repress it.
Do you think that yours are on the forefront, or have you built such a crux, or have you built such a shell in your exterior
I feel
physically to hide the emotional toll of your insecurity, so that people look at you and they see this put together individual, this pretty toned individual, but yet they don't see the inside?
Here's the thing. So, a lot of people, especially, I feel like girls, they've said I'm unapproachable because like they say I never smile, but I feel like it's just my natural face, but it's also kind of in a sense how I want to be perceived too, because nobody's going to come up and talk to me unless I want to talk to them, you know. So being unapproachable, I guess in a sense, is to my favor of how I want to be perceived. I know of course in the realm of business, I need to change that, and I do change that, but just in the general public, that's kind of how I want to be perceived, and that's how a lot of people do perceive me. You know, like, rarely anybody actually comes up to me and like starts a conversation. You know what I mean? It's like, so I only talk to the people I want to talk to. Like, I have to go up to you, which I kind of like that. That makes sense.
Kind of like the instance of you overthinking and there being very little surprises and you thinking of any scenario. Are there surprises that you could you don't have to mention any names, but are there any surprises that you've encountered recently or at any point during your time here at ACU? Or have you merely thought of every situation in every instance that you've been in? Or have there been any surprises in this first semester for
ACU.
you?
Only thing that's necessarily surprising, I guess, is...
Because you've just had a lot of time to think, so the only reason I narrowed it down to ACU is because you
of
just...
course.
Yeah.
I understand, but ACU wise, I guess, only thing that's actually surprised me actually recently is I've started to enjoy it a little more. Like, it was a little different, you know, I'm from San Antonio. It's a little bigger city than Abilene, Texas. It's a lot more like slow-paced life out here. I don't mind it, I guess. I mean, it gives me time to just kind of sit back, relax, and think. And it's different, like, pacing of life, I guess. That's the right word. But yeah, I've recently started to just enjoy it a little more. I mean, coming in, I thought I was transferring like next year for sure. But now I've started, I guess, considering a second year. We'll see. But I still want to transfer, but we'll see.
Is it the big city versus the small city transition, or is there something that your spirit isn't resting easy with here?
Well, for me, like, I need to feel caught up with modernism, if that makes sense. Like, I feel I need to be caught up with the new technology. Just, I don't want to be left behind, you know, because, like, nowadays everything changes very quickly, you know. Like, I want to be, like, it all stems back to, like, what I want to be in life. I want to be the first to, I want to be different. I want to be the first to do this, first to do that, you know. I want to be remembered, you know. So to do that, I have to kind of take leaps in when it comes to, like, society's ever changing. So I have to stay caught up with it because, you know, if you get left behind, you know, you can't really, I'm not saying you can't achieve much, but, you know, like, you get an advantage if you're caught up with society and you know everything.
Do you sometimes think that you've gotten caught up in a facade of kind of like a slingshot has to go back before it propels forward?
Of course.
Do you think that Abilene would be propelling you backwards, but you just see it as a step back instead of something that will propel you forward?
How I view my time here at Abilene is, like, I view it as kind of like a hero's journey archetype. Like you said, if you think of all these heroes that we aspire to be as kids, like Superman, Batman, you look at their life story, you know, there's always been tragic events, you know. So I feel like in my life, I want to be kind of like a hero type person to people. So me being at Abilene is just part of my story, you know, it's part of the plot, you know.
Do you really want to be remembered as a hero? Is that really something you ultimately strive to be remembered as?
Genuinely, I want to, I guess, help and inspire as many people as possible just to kind of break out of their own boundaries, I guess.
And by boundaries, do you mean?
Like their own minds.
Okay.
Just know that more is possible than what they can imagine.
And, well, I feel like the one person that would have to hear that more than anyone is you. Because in your pursuit of doing everything, you've kind of limited yourself to a box in a really weird way.
Aren't we all our own boxes, though?
Continue with that thought.
I don't know. Like the common saying goes, we're all our own worst enemies. So, I mean, it makes sense.
I fear that you've become your greatest weapon and your greatest detriment. But once again, you could say that that's everybody to some extent. But you have so much rationale that even if you got in your own path, you could justify it being for good instead of being for bad. I tend to
rationalize a lot, so.
I would...
Honestly, I don't. When I talk sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I do feel like I like to kind of expand my mind, and expanding my mind, I kind of just elaborate on some things that just kind of like, a lot of the stuff I say, I guess, when I like go on and on, it's like, honestly, they're fresh thoughts, you know. sometimes I say stuff I don't 100% believe in because, you know, it's just, I like to just let my mind flow, get in that flow state of just talking, have one thing connect to one thing, you know. It'll take some more time for me to like really think about everything I say to see if I really believe it or not. But I just, honestly, I speak my mind, so.
Do you feel like you've done that with Mikey, with the debates that you two have engaged
For sure.
in over the time?
Even with you, like, I know I talk sometimes in a lot of contradictions.
Oh, I'm aware of the oxymoron nature of certain conversations, but the
I
only
like to
difference is
consider myself a walking paradox.
you did mention the paradox in the first segment, and then discussed briefly the concept of how you being a paradox, and then you mentioned another point which wasn't contradictory, but it was just coincided
so
with
the
it.
meaning behind walking paradox, I guess, I'm kind of, I guess, everything in one, but like how you described before, that's just humans in general. But like I said, I take it a step further and say walking paradox is different for me because I'm more of like on the extreme side of both things, you know, like, it all goes back to this, like, I feel like as a man, you should be able, I'm not saying it's not time for morality, like the statement, like take morality out of it, but as a man, you should be able to, like, again, we'll take it to the extreme, you should be able to kill someone and also hold a baby in the same day. You know what I mean? You need to have the capability of that type of, what is it? You need to have the capability of both sides of the spectrum, if that makes sense.
What are you gonna say, balance? Or would you not
It's
use
not
that
really-
word because balance is ultimately not anything you'd see for flourishing?
Well, balance is just what you make it, I guess. I mean, I guess life is technically like a, what is it? A scale, I guess. I mean, it's always shifting up and down. There's never really complete balance. If everything was in complete balance, then I guess nothing would exist because, you know what I mean? It's just, everything's the same.
We're gonna have to take this in a whole different direction because otherwise it's just gonna result in us going in circles to the first segment because a lot of this was touched upon then. Okay, so we went through insights, we went through revelations. I believe we briefly discussed, you by no means you have to mention his name, but the point guard that you had during your time at your high school and how he's influenced your life, the people who have directly spoken to you. Kendall, yeah.
Yeah.
How has he impacted your life? Apart from...
Oh no, I feel like he was just like, I don't know, I feel like his archetype, I guess, like the type of person he was.
You mentioned archetype a lot. What archetype are you trying to develop here, or is that still in development?
I'm all the archetypes combined, I'd say that.
You would say that? So if all the archetypes have already been done before, how are you different? And how are you existing differently in a sphere that's already been created?
Exactly. I don't know. That's what I've been still trying to figure out.
What do you have to do to figure that out? Because as you said,
It's
you
like
know what you need to do.
everything is
But
nothing.
okay.
You know what I mean? So the more I
Expand
try to
on
be,
it.
it's just kind of, it's ironic. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how to break free, I guess. Because I guess the more I am, the less I am also. If that makes sense.
So what is breaking free to you? How do you define breaking free?
I'm still trying to figure that out also. It's a work in progress.
Okay. We spoke about joy. We spoke about you being in bondage at times because because you said you're guilty to feel happy. You said happiness is something you feel guilty feeling.
To an extent, I mean, there'll be times where like I sit there and I'm content and I'm like, okay, I can soak in the moment for a second, but prolonged periods of, I guess, happiness kind of like, I feel like if I'm ever too happy, I'm doing something wrong because, you know, I operate better in chaos.
How do you perceive those who are very happy oftentimes?
How do I perceive those that are very happy? It's either, I feel like there's no in between. It's either they're just truly happy or they're just very insecure.
I thought you were going to expound on that. I was waiting for real.
I don't know. What I've noticed the most, like, honestly, I feel like the strongest, mentally, like, you wouldn't expect it, but the most strong people mentally are the ones who are quiet, who you think are, I guess, like struggling the most, but in reality, it's the most outgoing ones they're not as mentally strong, because them being very extroverted acts as a big shield to hide what's actually going on. As in reality, the more quiet person, they don't necessarily need a shield. They kind of just, they're not afraid to show it, I guess. You know what I mean? Because when I was like going through stuff, I'm not saying I'm strong by no means, but I'm just saying like I wasn't hiding it. I'd say I was more mentally strong about it because I dealt with it myself, and I didn't need to hide it behind this personality that wasn't me. If that makes sense. And I'm not saying, I mean, there could be more naturally outgoing people, but from my experience, I can only speak from experience, people tend to hide it the most through kind of just how they interact with other people, and that seems to be them being more extroverted, you know, because they try to get their mind off everything. So I feel like the stronger minded people are the quieter ones. Not all the time, of course, there's the exceptions, but in generalities.
Do you think you've developed this opinion based on you being someone who can resonate with the
Of course,
quiet type?
it might be a little biased, you know.
Okay.
It might be a little bit, but I just feel like.
Do you think you'd be able to see it from the other perspective if you had to?
For sure. I mean, it could also be as well. It kind of depends on if they're open about it, but it can also be that they go through something, and then if they're extroverted, they want to kind of enlighten other people about kind of stuff, if that makes sense. Like, they want to kind of lift other people up so they don't have to feel what they're going through, and they can do that by being extroverted. But they're also open about what they're going through too. I feel like that's a form of strength. But I just feel like there's too many like specific instances and everything to like specifically pinpoint everything. You know what I mean? But in general, I would say the more strong-minded people are the quieter ones, because they understand. They understand there's no need. It all comes down to personality, but in general, I feel like the quieter people understand that it's better to just observe everything than to be out there just kind of being very open and extroverted, you know? I mean, I feel like some people do operate naturally more extrovertly, but again, it's generalities.
Have you met exceptions to actually no, wait. You defined innocence, or the losing of innocence, or the lack thereof, as maturing in a sense. How has this role played in your introverted personality in maturing? Did you mature out of extroversion into introversion, or have you always just been introverted mostly?
Well, I feel like everybody is introverted and extroverted.
Yourself, like you as a person, through your development.
Me, specifically me.
Yes.
Okay. I've always been introverted. I mean, I'd say I tend to get a little more extroverted around people I'm comfortable with, which are kind of friends and stuff. But yeah, that brings me to another point. Friends-wise, a lot of people get upset about my view on friends, I guess, because I like to say I have a lot of acquaintances. Because friends, for me, is like holds a deeper meaning. If you're my friend, you're someone I like deeply care about, and you know, like I would kind of like, I don't know. Friend for me is just like it's like a more deeper thing. I feel like the term friend nowadays is kind of just used too much, as in like you just meet someone other than my friend. You know what I mean? And I don't know, for me, I like I said, for me, everything has to hold meaning. So the word friend for me holds a deeper meaning.
You think men and women can be friends? I asked this because I remember what you spoke about, and I was just, it's all connecting again.
Yeah.
Your second segment, it's all connecting again. Do you think they can be friends? And
naturally, no.
Why naturally?
Because through nature, you know, we're creatures like every other being on Earth. we're just more intelligent, so I guess we have more cognitive function, we can understand things better. And with that comes rationalization, which I don't think other species necessarily possess. But in nature, there's always been a male and a female, and through nature, they're meant to procreate. So there's always that attraction towards the other gender, and I feel like as us humans, we're no different than any other species. That makes sense. Of course, there's levels to it, but we're all naturally drawn to the other gender. Innocence to procreate, if that makes sense. Like, we're drawn to the other gender on a deeper level than just friendship, if that makes sense. Yes, you can still view a other gender as a friend, but it all goes down to like, well, why do you want to be friends with them? Like, you see a trait in them that you would want in a romantic relationship, right? Say a girl is friends with a guy, you know what I mean? And they view themselves as just friends, the girl and the guy, but like, why are you friends with them in the first place? You enjoy being around them, but everything is deeper than that. Like, why do you enjoy being around them? Oh, he does this, but we honestly don't realize it's more subconscious, you know what I mean? Like, that's why we just don't realize it. And I mean, a lot of people would go to defend. Of course, there might be like true friendships between guys and girls. There's always anomalies, but in general, I just feel like it just doesn't work. Like, the dynamic just doesn't work.
Because a lot of your assessments are based on observations that you've had of your own life, you give a lot of generalizations, but what about examples from your own life that you're comfortable giving that you could say attests to this ideology?
Well, it's just every time I've, I guess, tried to be friends with it, like truly be friends with a girl that I wasn't physically attracted to, I just more open it up, you know what I mean? Like, open up my kind of boundaries, I guess. I feel like they always develop some sense of attraction towards me and more of just a friendship type sense. And all the girls I've wanted to be quote unquote friends with, I've had an attraction to. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not really friends with a lot of girls. I'm not gonna say I don't have any friends that are girls now. I have some acquaintances that are girls, but like, because friends has a deeper meaning to me, I wouldn't say I have like any true friends that are girls, because I don't see a relationship, whether you like it or not, is an exchange of, what is it called? I can't think, it's too late, but it's an exchange of value, I guess. Whether you like it or not, all types of relationships are an exchange of value. And I don't see an even exchange of value in between guys and girls.
Do you think you possess more value than the girl in the relationship?
Well, that's very subjective.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think about it?
Well, I feel like how guys act nowadays, it's the girls possess more value, because I feel like girls understand that, because I just don't understand. Like, girls will know a guy will likes them and will still be friends with them, but knows they want more from them, or knows the guy wants more, but will still kind of talk to him. Which, in a sense, it's not leading him on, but it's just kind of like selfish in a sense. I mean, I guess some girls don't realize it, but I feel like a lot of girls subconsciously keep a lot of guy friends around because they like the attention. They like the validation. Because in a sense, a lot of girls are insecure. I mean, so are guys too, don't get me wrong. But that's just kind of a way of girls flaunting their insecurities. If that makes sense.
So it all boils down to insecurities to you.
Everything comes out of fear and insecurity, I guess. That kind of shapes who we are as a person.
What have you done as a person to build a shield around your insecurities? Because if everything is based and rooted, well, this is about getting to know you. What, as a person, have you done to mold yourself through, around, or due to insecurity and fear? What have you built of the man you consider yourself to be based on them?
I feel like a lot of the kind of extreme views I have on some things just out of insecurity. Don't get me wrong, and like I said before, I don't know the exact insecurity. They're all subconscious. But if I really think about it, that's kind of why I am who I am right now, because of insecurities. I mean, I guess you could say my physique is out of insecurity too. I mean, as a kid, I did hate being skinny. I did hate being called skinny. So I guess you could say that's out of insecurity too, why I'm kind of more like built. But yeah.
I already asked you the sister question about would you be okay with your sister finding a guy like you, to which you said no. And
I said, from an outside point of view, looking at a person that is me, I would say no, but just because I am me and I know me, I would say yes. From an inside point of view. Outside point of view, no. Inside point of view, yes, because I know me. And I know intrinsically who I am. But looking from an outside point of view, not knowing, because nobody knows, like I don't know you 100%, because I'm not you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I would say no. But like, because I am me, and I know my intrinsic kind of, I know who I am intrinsically, I would say yes.
Between light and dark, how much have you allowed your dark side to define you?
Well, to me, it's kind of all grouped in one. My light is my dark. My dark is my light.
Expound.
You know? Because through my dark, it brings out my light. And also, through my light, it brings out my dark. If you know, you know. But here, I'll try to explain a little more. Through my darkness, I guess, it brings out light, because through my darkness I'm able to kind of relate to other people better, I guess, and if they come to me with their darkness, you know, I'm able to shed light on their situation. You know what I mean? And my light is my darkness because, you know, I don't know, like I said, I guess this doesn't necessarily relate as a whole, but my light is my darkness because it's more of in a sense of, where am I really had the thought and it just disappeared.
That's why it's so beautiful having these so late, because you either have to strip yourself of everything and really think about it. Yeah. I was thinking you were about to go down a path of extremes, like you having two extremes and that being different, and you know, I was thinking you'd go down there. I've never actually seen you in this state. This is actually very fascinating. I'm not expecting you to slip up because you're real to the core, so.
Yeah, no, it's just, I just had a brain for it, I'm not gonna lie.
That's fair. Which, a rare moment in most instances.
Okay, I was saying my light is my dark. My dark is my light, my light is my dark.
You can leave it there if you want.
I want to expand on it just because I don't like leaving things open. But I'd say my light is my dark because, you know, everything has an equal and opposite reaction in life. You know, that's what is it first law or is it third?
Great question. What?
I should-
Probably third. I should know this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everything has an equal and opposite reaction. That I feel like that applies to just not only physical aspects of life, but also to just every instance in life, I guess.
Yeah, it's his third law.
Yeah, there's third law.
Uh-huh.
So everything I do in the light is going to affect what goes down in the dark. If that makes sense.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So anything I do in the light is going to either bring up or oppress what's in the dark. If you oppress what's in the dark, it just literally emphasizes more dark, if that makes sense. If you bring up what's in the dark, it's going to do the same thing. So it's like, no matter what you do in the light, it's going to equally affect the dark. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So has music been a bridge between both light and dark for you?
Of course.
And has music been, because you're probably going to say both, but based on an assessment that you could make, music being a bridge has led you from which to which more frequently?
If I'm being completely honest, like I said, I what I noticed about myself is I tend to, when I get too much in the light, I guess you could say, I tend to want to go back to the dark, I guess. So I feel like music is kind of like a portal for that.
So would it not also be a trigger in a sense?
You can say it's a trigger, but it's also a light thing too, because yes, it'll bring me back down the dark, but also it's going to it's a really weird dynamic, because yes, music, like I'll listen to what, like Juice WRLD or something, it'll kind of bring me back down, but then because I don't see dark as like a bad thing, so like it doesn't really bring me down in a sense, because light is, I guess, subjective, because it'll bring me down to the dark, but through my dark it'll invoke the light, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try to find an example. So like, say I listen to Juice WRLD, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It'll kind of bring me back down to this more like mellow type, where I think about life more and on a deeper level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so that means I'm kind of dwelling in my darkness. Through that, I'm going to have, in my mind, I have a clear mind, you know what I mean? And I realize a lot about life. And through that, I understand, well, I'll give a specific example. I watched the Juice WRLD documentary actually fairly recently. Like, I watched it again all the way through, and it kind of made me realize again that how, like, I guess you can consider that me going back down to my darkness, but it's more of a sense, it made me realize again that life is short, you know, just, I feel like we think too much, you know, like sometimes you just need to not think and just act and experience things. And it's really hard for minds like you and me, but it kind of just made me realize that life is short, you know, and the best possible thing to do in life is just to be a good person, you know. So I guess that's how the dark will just bring light, you know, the dark invokes light.
What is good to you?
Good is everything you know you should do. Good is everything you know you should do. That makes sense.
But if a man should kill a man and be able to hold a baby in the same day, what is good to you?
Well, it's subjective in a sense. There's like you said, society's ever changing, so good is subjective. Just like bad subjective. I mean, we can look at, we can go into the gay examples. What's it called?
I'm interested to see where you go with this.
Back in the day, like 80s, weren't like gays, like they were kind of outlawed, and that was considered a good thing to do because it was frowned upon. Nowadays, we kind of push the gay pride community, and that's considered good. So what is good? You know what I mean?
What is your good?
Yeah, it's all subjective.
No, frequently, like subjectively.
And that's
When you think of good in your life, whether it be symbols, metaphorically, duality, and paradox, what are the things that you know that you want to do but don't do?
Exactly. Good are the things for me, the things I know I should do, but I'm not doing.
What would that be right now if you're comfortable sharing?
It's a lot of things that I'm not doing that I should be doing, I guess. I would say I need to be taking I know I'm not worried about my future, but I feel like I need to be taking it more serious right now. Like I've been getting out of my comfort zone a little bit, just talking to a little more people. And that's something new for me, I guess, because I like just occupying my own space and it just be me. So like recently I went to church with some friends and kind of went out with them a little bit, you know what I mean? And so it was a little different for me. Well, it was a good experience, I guess. I mean, the more I experience, the wiser I get. So I'm not mad about it, but yeah.
It's funny, you're kind of pushing yourself down that slide now.
Yeah, but it's just like I see that, and like I guess in my mind, necessarily know exactly what I should be doing. I mean, I can have an idea, but it's just like through me hanging out with them and stuff, I feel like I shouldn't be doing that
I was
because
just about to ask that question.
yeah,
Continue going along with that.
I just feel like I shouldn't be doing that because how I work, you know, everybody's different, but I feel like how I work, that it's just gonna kind of slow me down. I feel like for me, how I operate best is like, I don't know. Me operating best is I like just, I call it like just kind of going ghost mode. I just kind of turn into a ghost, I guess, you know, and just I don't really talk to many people. I kind of do my own thing, you know, if that makes sense.
How far has your own thing gotten you without you having to rely on other people?
It's gotten me the mindset I have now, so
Do you consider that a victory? A
For sure.
triumph?
I feel like my mindset's what separates me from everybody else. So I'd call it a victory.
So you say the victory is in you being different, but yet the same, all at the same time. Because in doing this, once again, you've acknowledged that you're trekking down a path that many have done numerous times, but yet in being different, your difference is acknowledging that you are different, yet the same simultaneously, which then renders you one
And then-
big paradox once again.
Of course, but then I don't know. It's like my arrogant side is like. Here, I'll give an example of like my arrogant side. I guess it's like if someone tells me I can't do something, I will do it just for the fact to prove them wrong. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And like if someone, I hate people saying like this is impossible. You know, I hate the word impossible because I really feel like everything is possible. You know, like I know it sounds dumb, but I don't know. Like I just like I'm very arrogant. I guess if someone's like you can't do that, blah blah blah. Like it's literally impossible. Like be smart about it. Like just to be stubborn. Like I'd say like I'll make it happen. You know what I mean? Like I will do it. You know, and like it kind of goes back to just life in general, I guess. But I like to think like life does beat you down, life will hit you, but you just gotta stand back up and say like, you gotta like basically point the middle finger at life and say like, I hit harder. You know, you gotta hit harder. You gotta hit life back harder than it hits you, if that makes sense. But that also goes to another thought though. It's like what I've figured out through life is you accomplish more by being gentle, if that makes sense. It's kind of crazy. It's like there's this liquid, I don't know what it is, but I saw it on TikTok. There's this liquid, like the more gentle you push something through it, it'll actually pass through, but I guess the harder impact, like you try to like punch it, it's like a wall. But like you put your hand in it, your hand will sink right through. You know what I mean? I figured honestly that's like the key to life, if that makes sense, you know? If I'm gonna be honest.
This is a typical question, and I wouldn't say it's in closing because this all depends on how much more you have to say, but very frequent question, and do your best to answer it based on your innermost perspective, apart from the paradoxes and the duality, because everything can be chalked up to a
For
technicality.
sure.
if
I'll
we
try to
really
answer
look
it
at it.
very straightforward.
Okay, are you a good guy trying to be bad, or a bad guy trying to be good? What would you consider yourself on that spectrum?
Good guy trying to be bad.
Why?
Nothing's truly good.
So, if nothing's truly good,
Well, I just feel like
mm-hmm.
it's either, I'm not saying step on other people, it's either step or be stepped on in that society nowadays, you know, like, this is what I mean, you just have to have the capacity for evil in a sense, but not like anything super bad, but, you know, you just have to have the capacity for it. So I'm not saying do it, but you should have the capacity for it, you should have the capability.
So in that sense, are you conforming to society, or are you standing apart and being different by stepping on or being stepped on? What are you doing? Are you separating
You could
yourself?
argue for both,
Okay, what would you argue for yourself?
kind of like.
Because your rationale is always intriguing, so I'd
I
be
mean, you could argue for both sides. I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like it doesn't really matter which side you argue for, as long as it's kind of pushing you towards where you want to be.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
So by any means necessary, you're saying?
For sure. I guess you could say that, yeah.
Has by any means necessary, because you're a world of two extremes. No, I can't ask this again, because then it'd be going in a circle, and you're too tired to grasp it at the moment. Okay, so, you said there was one song of Juice WRLD that your mom really liked. Is there a reason why? It was called The Light, right?
The Light.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's ironic.
What about, yeah, it's really funny. I was actually going to use that one, but what about that song?
You can put that song.
I was probably going to. What do you think about that song reminds her of you?
Honestly, I feel like, I honestly don't think there's a super deep meaning to it. I just feel like it's the only Juice WRLD song without any cuss words. And, I don't know, it's more like a feel-good song. It's more of her type of music, like, it's more like happy type. I guess there are some lyrics that are more like sad, but it's more like upbeat music, like more of her style.
If there's one thing you could ultimately see your mom do, be the direct action of your mom doing something, whether it be being proud or whatnot, what would it be? What is something that you want to fulfill for your mom or your dad? You talk about your mom a lot more than you talk about your dad, but for the sake of this, either which one, yes. Or are there any fears, like, that you fear them seeing you in?
I just want to make both of them proud, if that makes sense. Like, I guess back to the happy thing, what would make me, like, truly happy would be I would like to, I guess, help them live their lives to the fullest. Like, I want to retire them early. I want to be like, hey, choose a state, choose anywhere in the world, I will build you a house anywhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just want them to live life to the fullest. Like, if they want to go, they'll be like, hey, Ryan, like, can we go to this place? If they want to go to Rome one week, I'll send them to Rome. They'll be like, hey, like, I want to experience this. I want to go skydiving. I'll set it up, This is what I mean. I don't chase money. Money's just a tool. But I want to be so financially set that it's just like, it's not that money has no meaning. It's just, I want to have like the FU type money, you know what I mean? Like, just a lot of it.
Have you ever wondered if their meaning for do you ever get curious about what their meaning of happiness in your life is?
I talked to my mom about it.
What is it? What is her?
Dad, they said they don't care about those materialistic things. Their happiness is seeing me happy. And I respect that.
And if you're always truly guilty feeling happy, then will they ever be happy?
Well, that's another story, but what's it called?
Fair.
It's like, I understand that, yes,
You're fine.
I understand that through them seeing their kid be happy, they are happy. But I also understand that even though they may say we don't care about it, they would enjoy those type of things that I could provide for them.
But would you be happy?
I'd be more than happy. What makes me happy is me making other people happy. I like gift giving.
You don't give yourself much grace, do you? Because you don't feel like you are where you are. And I think I ultimately said this in the first one, but even if you had everything, you'd still feel like you didn't have enough. And then what do you do then? Like, you give your parents everything.
At some point, I'm going to have to be content.
No, you know what? You wouldn't know when because you haven't experienced one yet. But you could try to do so. But that's for another day. What time do you have business class?
9. It's going to be up at 8.
My math class is at 9 as well. Alright, so...
I'm going to try to make it though. I missed Friday business class.
You're not standing
on
business.
If I get 4 hours of sleep, I'm going to go to class and then I'll just catch up on sleep after classes and take a nap.
But otherwise, then everything is nothing and nothing is everything. Yeah, this beautiful remark that unfortunately was lost about each person understanding that their experiences to some extent is universal. It was funny hearing you preach that you're not alone when everything about your being is being alone and reveling in being alone.
Well, again, everyone's different. I understand that. I feel like I'm not like other people in a sense of I handle stress and I handle pain a lot better than the average person.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like with me being able to do that, it's kind of like my job. to kind of put it out there that, hey, like, you're not alone, it's okay, if that makes sense. You
Okay.
know? Because, of course, the teacher is always the one who's been through the most, the wisest, because they have the most experience and they're able to handle more things, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Typically. So I just feel like with my knowledge and what I'm able to go through, like I feel a responsibility to kind of preach that outwards. If that makes sense.
So, potential final remark. If your kid somehow got a hold of this and listened to it, what would be, because you're of course going to raise them and whatnot, but what would you want your kid to understand about who you are right now?
That's a good question. What do I want my kid to understand about me right now? I would say right now I'm in more of a transformative part of my life
Mm-hmm.
where I'm still, I guess, trying to figure out who I am. And I know I'm gonna become, of course, I need to start mentioning God more. Like I know I need to become, or I know I need to get a close relationship with God. I keep saying, like, I know what I'm gonna become and I trust myself, but I guess at the end of the day, it is whatever God wants me to be. So, what was the question again?
What you want your kid to understand about you and who you are right now.
So everything happens for a reason. Everything I do is for a reason. I don't think there's any actions I take that's kind of uncalculated, I guess. I guess there's some things I do on impulse, but I always kind of think about just the consequences of anything I do. That makes sense. And I don't really know what to say.
That's fine.
I'm just becoming who I'm meant to be.
All I have to say is thank you. That's it. I appreciate it. From the lone text to 3 in the morning.
It's 4:30.
Yeah, it's 4:30 in the morning right now. It's a whole new dawn, a whole new day for you to gain more insight and wisdom.
I'm gonna get some sleep.
Go to sleep, Brian. Hope you have a beautiful night.
See you.